Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, and today sees the return of the player featured most often on my YouTube channel. Yep, you all know him, you all love him. It's Dave. Although he appears to be trying to convince us that his name is No, I can't pronounce that. It's just... No, it's Dave once again. And Dave is in the Tier 6 Premium Pan-Asian, although technically it's actually Chinese, although if you go back far enough it's British, light cruiser, the Huanghui. Is that how you pronounce it? I really don't know. Originally, this was a British Arethusa class light cruiser. The Arethusas were the successors to the Leanders, although they weren't quite as effective or capable as the Leanders that preceded them, and the reason for that was Britain just kind of needed as many light cruisers as they could get their hands on as quickly as possible, so some corners were cut in the design of the Arethusa, principally one less gun turret, which means two less guns, and that's a major issue. But more on that in a moment. This particular Arethusa class light cruiser was HMS Aurora, and post-World War II it was sold to Taiwan, and then promptly defected to the People's Republic of China, and instantly became the most powerful unit in the People's Liberation Army Navy at the time. Which says a whole lot more about the terrible state of the People's Liberation Army Navy than it does about the capabilities of the Arethusa class light cruisers. In the early 1950s, the Chinese decided that they were getting kind of tired of supplying these British guns and British torpedoes with the relevant ammunition, and so they swapped them all out for Soviet versions. So, in effect, what that gives us is a Tier 6 light cruiser, very similar to the Leander or HMAS Perth, except with one less gun turret and therefore two less guns, although the guns do fire a little faster and hit a little bit harder, and is equipped with Soviet torpedoes that, for reasons that completely escape me, have double the range of every other ship armed with Soviet torpedoes at or around Tier 6. Because reasons. What this ship does also have in common with HMAS Perth is a creeping smoke generator. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's basically a smoke generator where the individual puffs of smoke don't last very long at all, but it does keep generating these puffs of smoke for a very long time, so providing you're not going any faster than 1/4 throttle, you can actually keep moving while remaining hidden inside your smoke screen. So, creeping smoke screen. Pretty good anti-aircraft firepower for a Tier 6 cruiser. Guns that individually hit harder and fire slightly faster than equivalent British or Commonwealth cruisers. Torpedoes that, thanks to the addition of secret KGB documents, have magically acquired double the range of anything else equipped with Soviet torpedoes at Tier 6. This sounds pretty good, right? Well, it might sound pretty good, but it's actually pretty terrible for a whole bunch of reasons. Make no mistake, the Huanghui, or however you pronounce it, is a bad ship. And it's a bad ship for a whole bunch of reasons. Let's take a look at that smoke screen. Admittedly, the creeping smoke screen is pretty good, but the ship has absolutely no way of seeing out of the smoke screen. It can have hydro, but then you have to give up the torpedo reload booster, and Dave's elected to go with the torpedo reload booster instead, and obviously as a Tier 6 cruiser it doesn't have any access to radar. But unlike the Perth and the Leander, it doesn't have a spotting aircraft. So that not only means that it's effectively blind inside its own smokescreen, unless somebody else is spotting for it, but it's also restricted to a pathetic 13.2 kilometer maximum main battery firing range. And that firing range means that it has to get uncomfortably close to, well, anything in order to do some damage, and it only has 6 guns to do it. The slightly harder hitting shells and the slightly increased rate of fire in no way make up for that missing 4th gun turret at the rear. The damage output of this ship is just bad. On the plus side, it does have very good stealth. I think it's the only Tier 6 cruiser that has less than 10 kilometers base surface detection range. But you still have to get uncomfortably close to hit anything with the guns because they only have a 13.2 kilometer range. And if anything that you're shooting at decides that they want to shoot back at you while you're in this ship, you are probably going to have all kinds of problems, because while it is fairly agile and manoeuvrable, if you're shooting at them, that means they're within 13.2 kilometers, and that does not leave you an awful lot of time to dodge. If and when you get hit, your armour is not going to protect you, because at heart this is a Tier 6 British light cruiser, and they are very lightly armoured ships. But it's even worse in this ship, because not only is the Citadel only protected by 32mm of armour, it has a raised Citadel that sits above the waterline, and the ammunition hoists, which can take Citadel hits, aren't even protected by the pathetic 32mm of Citadel armour. Now, Dave has been relatively lucky so far, because most of the ships that have had the opportunity to actually shoot at him haven't, and those that have, like this Prinz Eitel Friedrich, have all been firing high explosive. Like this Prinz Eitel Friedrich, for example, who is probably going to notice these torpedoes before too long, although he is going to take some of them, and that is a respectable amount of torpedoes that Dave's been able to dump into the water against this Tier 6 German premium battleship. But the only reason he's been able to put so many torpedoes into the water is because he had to use the torpedo reload booster. Yes, the Huang Hui can only launch 3 torpedoes per side, and they may have an 8-kilometer range, but they don't hit very hard and they're not particularly quick. And if you're going to use that torpedo reload booster, you can't have the hydroacoustic search consumable. Well, the Prinz Eitel Friedrich is down, so that's good, but let's face it, he was sailing broadside on to smoke screens that were launching torpedoes at him, and he was firing a high explosive with battleship guns at broadsiding light cruisers. So probably not a great loss to his team, although he did at least absorb some damage that could have been more profitably sent in the direction of somebody on the enemy team capable of thinking and breathing at the same time. But here's the thing, even though the Prinz Eitel was firing high explosive at Dave, and trust me, that is infinitely preferable to having, well, anybody, not just battleships, firing armour piercing at this ship, because this ship's armour is so incredibly bad, it still takes a lot of damage, even from high explosive ammunition. In fact, with only 32mm of Citadel armour, it's not impossible to Citadel this ship with high explosive ammunition. Although you will obviously do more damage if you Citadel the ship with armour piercing, because that's just the way armour piercing works. But just the fact that people are dumb enough to be firing high explosive at you, while it's preferable to people firing AP, you're still going to take a lot of damage from it. So, pathetically low health pool, flimsy armour, exposed Citadel, parts of the ship that count as the Citadel that aren't even protected by the lousy 32mm of Citadel armour, very short range guns, has to get uncomfortably close to be effective, and when I say effective, it only has 6 guns, and it only has 3 torpedoes per side. Good stealth, credit where credit's due, this is a very stealthy light cruiser, but it doesn't have the speed to be able to use that stealth to dictate engagement ranges. So, to sum this ship up, I'm pretty much just going to paraphrase Little White Mouse's summary from her review of this ship on the North American World of Warships forums. This is a bad ship with a good smoke generator. So what do you want to play with? Do you want to play with the bad ship, or do you want to play with the good smoke generator? Because if it's the good smoke generator that you want, just wait for HMAS Perth to go on sale. Unfortunately for Dave here, this is the ship that he's got, this is the ship that he's stuck with. Now, it does take a lot to get the most out of this ship, and by that I mean a 14-point captain, and I'm pretty sure Dave doesn't have one. I know he's at least got a 10-point captain, because his surface detection range is down to 8 kilometers, so he's obviously got the concealment expert skill, and that's absolutely the first skill you should go for in this ship, because it does have good stealth, so you want to make the most of that. You want to build on what is basically the only good thing about this ship, other than its creeping smoke generator. But the next 4-point skill that you must go for in this ship is inertia fuse for high explosive shells, and judging by the number of shatters that his 6-inch high explosive is suffering on the side of this New Mexico, he definitely does not have that skill. He is setting a lot of fires though. Remember, high explosive shells don't have to inflict any damage to actually set a fire. Even HE shells that shatter could still set a ship on fire. And in fact, by the end of this battle, he will have set 19 fires, which is going to form a significant fraction of the overall damage that he does throughout the course of this game. And yep, the New Mexico is also firing high explosive at him. Well, hang on, Jingles, I thought you said that this ship could be citadeled by battleship caliber high explosive shells. Well, yes, it absolutely can, if you hit it in the side. but he was angled away. So those, what caliber guns does the New Mexico have? 15-inch? No, 14-inch. 14-inch high explosive can easily get through 32mm of Citadel armour. But shooting at a target that's sailing away from you, to get through that 32mm of Citadel armour, you have to get through the rear armour, the athwartship's armour. So you're never going to get Citadel from that angle by even a battleship armed with 15-inch guns firing high explosive shells. Armour piercing, on the other hand, would have crashed right through all of the transverse bulkheads and probably taken the Citadel out. And he's still firing high explosive. And just like the Prinz Eitel, Friedrich earlier maintained the same course and speed and sailed straight into all of the torpedoes. But, you know, while it is infinitely preferable to have people firing high explosive at you rather than armour piercing, you still take a lot of damage from high explosive, particularly high explosive of that kind of calibre. So, you know, it's not exactly good news. And you only have 13.2 kilometre main battery firing range, and you can't extend it because the ship doesn't get a spotter aircraft. So 13.2 kilometres away from a battleship shooting at you, that does not leave an awful lot of room in which to utilise the ship's admittedly fairly good manoeuvrability to dodge return fire. And your armour's trash, and you have the lowest health pool of any Tier 6 cruiser in World of Warships. You do set a lot of fires though. Almost as many as the Le Galissoniere. Almost. But not quite. Because you only have 6 guns. Not 9. This is just a really, really bad ship. Which is what makes it all the more remarkable that Dave, in this ship, has just gotten the High Caliber Award and done over 120,000 damage. The problem is that so far he hasn't been able to follow that damage up with kills, because damage is good, but it doesn't matter unless you're killing things. Now luckily the rest of the team have been following up the damage that he's inflicting on his targets, and have been getting those kills, and the team are actually, well, they were 2 kills up until that Julio Cesare sank the Queen Elizabeth, which put them 1 kill up, but Dave just got his first kill, avenged the Queen Elizabeth, sank the Italian Tier 5, and the team are still 2 kills ahead, but they're still behind on points. And they're behind on points because the enemy team have controlled most of the caps for most of the game. And cap control is very important, because as you can see by the timers at the top of the screen, if things continue, despite the fact that they have a 2-kill lead, the enemy team are still going to win in around about 5 minutes. So Dave, or his surviving teammates, are either going to need to sink everything on the enemy team, which would easily win the game, obviously, or they're going to need to start flipping some of those caps, because the enemy team still have that points lead, and they still have more points coming in. Now, enemy carrier has been spotted. Now, sighting the enemy carrier is a good news, bad news situation. It's good news because it means you actually have the opportunity to kill the bugger, and killing enemy carriers isn't something that happens very often in World of Warships these days. The problem is that everybody is so consumed with bloodlust at the sight of the Ranger over there that they're all going after the carrier. They're ignoring the Congo, they're ignoring the Leander, and the Congo in particular was taking advantage of everybody's target fixation to get some pretty serious hits on the French Tier 4 battleship, who is currently undergoing a torpedo attack run from the Ranger up there, down slightly to the southwest. They're not just ignoring the Congo with the Leander, they're also ignoring the admittedly somewhat toxic advice from, I think it was the guy in the other destroyer. He's managed to get 2 kills. He was the Eagle who was pink at the start of the game, who's demanding that the team flip one of those capture points. And he's there in chat venting his spleen, and it has to be said being remarkably unflattering in his assessment of the character of, in particular, the surviving destroyer on the team, the Gnevny, who has just ducked behind the island and popped smoke, which is really good news for Dave here, because his creeping smoke screen has just expired and he doesn't have any charges of smoke left. Now Dave does still have shots in the air, and he's just finished off the Ranger. And the smoke screen from the Gnevny, I think that was a good guy move from him, because the smoke was absolutely of no use to the Gnevny whatsoever. He was about to duck in the cover behind the island anyway, and the only person that it benefits is Dave. So GG to the Gnevny, even though his character is being called into question by the dead Eagle in chat. And the thing about the dead Eagle in chat is he's not wrong. He is an arsehole. But he's not wrong. The team do need to flip some of those caps, because the Congo up there has just completely invalidated the temporary reprieve that Dave bought for the team by killing the Ranger. The Congo has just pulled a kill back himself. However, in doing so, he has kind of overextended a little, because with the death of the Ranger, he's now the only visible enemy ship, so the team have no choice but to shoot at him, whether they want to or not. And I think the Congo realises he's about to go down, and he's just trying to get some more damage off, shooting, I believe, at the New Mexico. The Leander is visible, but the team must kill the Congo, because without the points from that kill, well done Dave, there's yet another kill, 181,000 damage, and the Arsonist award, and without the points from that kill, the enemy team were going to win in just over 2 minutes. So, once again, Dave's bought the team some time. But time for what? Are they going to chase down and kill the Leander, or are they going to start flipping some of those caps? Killing the Leander would obviously win the game outright. But if that Leander has any sense whatsoever, he's going to turn around and run, because all he has to do is stay alive for another 3 minutes, and his team wins the game. They're way ahead on points, and the only way to stop them from winning on points is to flip caps. But it's kind of late, they only have 3 minutes to do it. The Gnevny is heading for Alpha, and he's fast enough to get there relatively quickly, but is it going to be quickly enough? He's not going for Bravo, because that's where the Leander is. And the Leander, even though he's on half health, is capable of killing a Gnevny without too many problems. So the Gnevny is going to flip Alpha, and that's, again, going to buy the team a bit of time. Even if he doesn't flip it, he's going to prevent the Leander from gaining any more points from it while it's contested. Dave is closing in. Now this is tricky, because the Leander, remember, is basically this ship, except better in every category other than anti-aircraft defences and stealth. And Dave isn't a torpedo bomber, so it's only really the stealth that matters. On the bright side, the Leander is at least spotted, and does not appear to be heading directly away. In fact, it looks like he's heading down in the direction of Capture Point Charlie. And believe it or not, despite the relatively pedestrian speed of the Huanghui, with a top speed of 33 knots, it's actually half a knot faster than the Leander. Unfortunately, the friendly carrier was more concerned with trying to kill the Leander than trying to keep it spotted. Still, all is not lost, because the Gnevny, contesting and in the process of flipping Alpha up to the north, has once again bought the team some more time. But that Leander is still going to win in 3 minutes, unless the team can catch him and kill him. Simply flipping the caps is not going to be enough. There isn't enough time left to make up the difference in points from captures alone. That Leander is too far ahead. And there he is. Now I don't know exactly what his plan was here. If I was him, I would have been heading straight for the top northeast corner of the map as fast as I possibly could, but instead it looks like he's actually reversing. I think he'd come to a halt behind the island, trying to hide there, but the torpedo bombers spotted him anyway. Now, they couldn't attack from the original direction, they had to overfly him and eat his anti-aircraft fire on the way, but they managed to get 2 torpedoes away anyway, and one of them has it. But both of them were going to have to hit him in order to sink him, because airdrop torpedoes don't actually do that much damage, comparatively speaking, compared to surface-launched torpedoes. And once again, because the carrier was more concerned, somewhat understandably, with trying to sink the Leander than simply spotting him, he's gone undetected. And he's gone undetected with only a minute of the game left. Because the Gnevny was flipping Alpha, he doesn't have a line of sight on the Leander. The New Mexico just started too far away to be able to contribute anything, so we're going to have to rely on the carrier coming back with a fresh squadron of aircraft. And the carrier has reacquired the target, but the Leander didn't waste the time that he spent undetected. He's got a nice big solid island between himself and Dave here, and Dave can get shots over that island, but he's having real problems aiming because he can't see the Leander's waterline. The carrier's dropped torpedoes, which have missed. Dave is now in the Bravo cap. That enemy cruiser no longer has any points coming in from any sources, but the thing is, he doesn't actually need any more points. He has 125 health, which is 124 more than he needs. He just has to survive for the next 20 seconds. And he's going to win, because despite the fact that Dave's team now hold all 3 of the caps, it was too little, too late. The Leander has enough points that all he has to do is live, run the timer down, and that's a defeat for Dave. 187,000 damage in what is arguably the worst cruiser in World of Warships. That may even be the official damage record for this ship. But even that wasn't enough to win. So here's what I want to know. In your opinion, who was responsible for this soul-crushing defeat? If you believe the arsehole in chat, it was the Gnevny, who didn't cap Bravo halfway through the game and instead chased after the carrier. But everybody chased after the carrier. Was it in fact the friendly carrier who conducted multiple torpedo drops on the enemy Leander and only hit him with 1 when his time could have far more profitably been spent just keeping him spotted? Was it Dave for picking this ship? Or was it a combination of all of the above? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Dave, my commiserations. It must really, really hurt to get that amount of damage done in a ship as bad as this and still not win. Everyone else, I hope you were entertained, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.